Hey everyone, Ashley Mailloux here with the Daily Racing Form. This Sunday, June 4th, out at Santa Anita Park, their 8th race is the Affirmed Stakes, $100,000 purse, a mile and a 16th on the main track. And it's for 3-year-olds. And just looking at this race in terms of the history of this race, Bob Baffert has the most wins as a trainer. He has 6, going to look for his 7th, and he has a couple opportunities in here, that being the number 4, Mr. Fisk, as well as the number 5, Hard to Figure. I'm just looking at horses that have won this race in the past. Last year, Hopper, the Chosen Vron, Mucho Gusto, and even going back further to horses such as Deputy Commander and Tiz Now. So it's been a productive race. Nice to see the 3-year-olds in the spotlight, and a field of 6 is expected to go here. The 2 big names probably being Skinner, as well as the number 6, Go Rocket Ride, which are horses that we haven't seen, kind of since the winter and early spring at Santa Anita, but they've had some big performances and they were hyped, kind of looking at maybe going towards the Triple Crown Trail. Both of those are nominated, as well as several others in here. So a field of 6 expected. We'll start with the number 1, Zebo. This one out of the Ryan Hansen barn. A couple of big changes coming his way. Not only is he going to stretch out from a 6-furlong turf event to a mile and a 16th, but this is going to be his first time on the dirt. He's going to wear blinkers. The last time out is his first time getting LASIK, just having that one start as a 3-year-old. I thought he raced pretty well, going 3/4 of a mile on the grass. He made up some ground late, buying horses such as Mas Rapido, who's been kind of one to watch in those turf sprints, even going a little bit longer on the turf at Santa Anita. But the big thing is, can he handle the dirt? His work suggests that he can. Very sharp workouts, but he's going to get tested in here with some other horses coming out of grade 1 and grade 2 events. And maybe the blinkers will put some speed into him, because you look at those races so far in those sprints, he's kind of been run off his feet early on. He's been towards the back of the pack and making that late run, which, I thought he ran well last time considering, and you'd think the distance might help him, but the blinkers also the surface are kind of 2 also things to consider when looking at Zebo. The number 2, Skinner, is where we'll go next. This one on the John Sheriff's barn. We'll take a look at his most recent performance back on April 8th in the grade 1 Santa Anita Derby. Now, he's the number 7 in this field. At even money was the number 5, A Practical Move. And just looking at this performance, Skinner is a kind of a grinder. He grinds from the back of the pack. You can see he's on the outside here and has some late run, but Practical Move just has some stuff left in reserve in the stretch. And Skinner is game to the wire here. Going to try to, throw it down also with Mandarin Hero, who ends up finishing second by just the slimmest of noses. But I thought it was a really good performance from Skinner. He's been talked a lot about. A lot of people have hyped him up, kind of look at his trajectory in terms of his career. He goes to maiden special weight and then tries to break his maiden in 2 grade 1 events, which to me means that John Sheriff thought that the potential was there. He was able to finally graduate in his first start as a 3-year-old. And since then, he's been in those kind of mid to upper 90 buyer speed figure ranges. I thought how he raced in the Santa Anita Derby was very impressive. And for me, I thought the mile and an 1/8 hit him right. He is going to cut back a little bit to a mile and a 16th, but I think he'll be okay in here. He does get a shorter field in terms of the number of, competitors in here. And I don't think Mike Smith is going to have him too far off of it. He's going to be closing from off it. There's no way I see this horse being kind of towards the front. But I think with this compact field, this field will not be strung out early going 2 turns. The number 3, Delmar Jerry. This one out of the Michael McCarthy barn. Was a winner on debut, and I thought it was a really good performance when you watch that race back on May 5th at Santa Anita. Just the way that he was able to kind of battle it out towards the inside and grind and get the win. It was good. The number came back as 77. Now, barn does well with winners last time out, just about 16 or 17%, but this is going to be a huge jump up in class, and I think he's going to have it kind of out for him in here, just knowing that these other horses have fared very well, facing some of the best 3-year-olds out in California. So for me, Delmar Jerry, probably a wait-and-see approach, but he's also going to have to stretch out from 6 furlongs to a mile and a 16th in career start number 2. The number 4, Mr. Fisk. This is one of 2 for Bob Baffert. As I mentioned, he's going to look for his 7th win in this race. This horse disappointed last time out in a grade 2 event, but we're going to go back to his maiden special weight victory back on January 2nd. So one of those first opportunities for these newly turned 3-year-olds to get that first start of that campaign for that year. And just looking at him in here, number 4, Harlow Cap's on the lead, and he's kind of trying to take them here. He looks like he might be able to, but the way that Mr. Fisk really hits his best stride late was quite impressive. He gets by this horse in the end, and Harlow Cap, speaking of him, he comes back to win next time out. It was a big field for that sort of level. A lot of people are trying to get that first start in as a 3-year-old. I thought he ran well. Then last time out, he just didn't really have anything. He didn't show up at all. So he's now back in the Bob Baffert barn. been working well. You look at the rider who's aboard, Juan Hernandez, who's piloted into his two best efforts. I like to see him reuniting with him. I think that's a positive sign for this runner. The number 5, Hard to Figure, is his stablemate, 3-year-old son of Hardspun, who was 4th last time out in the La Brea, going 7 ace. Prior to that, he was 6th in the Sunland Derby. He's been an inconsistent type. I mean, he was able to graduate at Los Alamitos Racecourse in a small stake there for $75,000 that was restricted. And they brought him back in the grade 3 Bob Hope. He didn't run well. Then he popped 100 Buyer speed figure, which is huge, in that grade 3 event back on February 4th. He ends up finishing 2nd in there behind Newgate. It was a compact field. He was 12-1. He took no love. And since then, I thought he's needed more. He's left some things to be desired. We'll see what he does stretching out back in distance. And he's going to get blinkers on. So I think that's a key equipment change, a very interesting one for the barn when you look at the outfit. Blinkers on, 21%. Also just stretching out from 7 ace to 1 mile and a 16th. Kind of that sprint to route angle is a very strong angle for the Baffert barn. Then we'll round it out with the number 6, Go Rocket Ride. This one out of the Richard Mandela barn, who was a very impressive maiden debuter who was able to win by nearly 6 lengths on debut. And then we'll take a look at his most recent performance in grade 2, San Felipe. Just looking at how this race is run, Ajazi ends up tiring in here, and a couple horses to note. The number 8 is Go Rocket Ride. The 10 is Skinner, and the number 11 is Mr. Fisk. He's a little bit further back. And I think, again, this Practical Move gets talked about. He's just been so impressive as a 3-year-old out in California, and unfortunately didn't make the Derby field. But Go Rocket Ride in here, very determined on the inside, and I thought he kicked on nicely in the lane, just could not catch Practical Move in the end. And just kind of seeing him make that jump from maiden special weight competition into that grade 2, facing horses such as Practical Move in a big field, I think bodes well for him. I think he's going to take a lot of respect in this race now. I haven't seen him since March 4th, so he's had some time to kind of, regroup and regather, but he seems to be working very well. You can see the workouts for him anywhere from 5 to 11 days apart. It's been kind of an interesting work pattern, which I've noticed a lot recently with Richard Mandela, but it's certainly one to respect in the Affirmed Stakes. That's a field of 6, top to bottom. In terms of the horses that stood out to me, it's the 2 Skinner and the 6 Go Rocket Ride. I've just always thought Go Rocket Ride, off of what he's shown so far, that there's a lot of potential there. And I think would have liked to seen him, before now, between now and March, but he seems to be training well. I think his running style is going to be very tactical and forwardly placed in here. I do like the number 2 Skinner. I use him in the 2nd spot. My thing with Skinner is I think he's going to be a horse that wants to go like 1 mile and an 1/8, or even wants to maybe go 1 mile and a 1/4 down the road. Not that he can't, win this race at 1 mile and a 16th. It's certainly within his wheelhouse. I just think I'm a little bit more intrigued by him going a tad bit longer. And then from there, I went to both the Bob Baffert horses. I thought Mr. Fisk, looking at his maiden victory, he looked very impressive. Maybe he had an excuse last time out. It's only going to make his 2nd start since early January. And then finally, Hard to Figure. I mentioned the equipment change. He's inconsistent, but anything close to his last try at 1 mile and a 16th at Santa Anita, he could be very sneaky in this spot. As I mentioned, he got 100 Buyer speed figure when he last raced at Santa Anita at this distance. So just something to note. But for me, ultimately, I landed on the number 6, Go Rocket Ride. Good luck.